The year was difficult. Two people the Prophet Muhammad loved deeply had just died. His wife, Khadijah, and his uncle, Abu Talib, passed away only months apart. These two were his biggest supporters. They protected him, encouraged him, and gave him strength. Without them, he felt alone. In Makkah, people were turning against him. Some threw stones. Others insulted him in the streets. He was not safe. His heart was heavy with sadness and fear. But even during this dark time, the Prophet did not give up. He kept his message alive. He believed in peace, in truth, and in one God. His mission was not for fame or power. It was to guide people with kindness and wisdom. That mission changed the world forever. Prophet Muhammad is one of the most important people in human history. More than 1 billion people today follow his teachings. His words brought hope to the poor, rights to women, and unity to broken tribes. He taught people to be honest, fair, and compassionate. He was not a king, a soldier, or a rich man. He was an orphan, a shepherd, a merchant, and finally, a messenger. In this story, you will learn about his life, from his early childhood in the desert to the final days of his mission. You will hear how he faced struggles, how he led with mercy, and how he inspired millions. This is not just a story about religion. It is a story about courage, character, and change. And as you listen, you will also practice English. This video will help you improve your English listening, learn new vocabulary, and understand real stories in simple language. So, if you are ready to grow in knowledge, language, and inspiration, stay with us until the end. Please like this video, subscribe for more powerful stories, and share in the comments, what do you know about Prophet Muhammad? Let's learn together. Let's begin the journey. Prophet Muhammad was born in the city of Makkah in the year 570. His family belonged to the Quraysh tribe. This tribe was known and respected in Arabia. But Muhammad's early life was not easy. His father, Abdullah, died before he was born. When he was only 6 years old, his mother, Amina, also passed away. Muhammad became an orphan very young. After his mother died, his grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, took care of him. The old man loved Muhammad very much. But just 2 years later, the grandfather also died. Muhammad was now only 8 years old. He had lost both parents and his grandfather. Life was full of pain and loss. But his heart remained soft, and his eyes were always watching the world around him. After his grandfather's death, Muhammad went to live with his uncle, Abu Talib. Abu Talib was kind and protected him like his own son. He did not have much money, but he gave Muhammad love and support. They lived a simple life, close to nature, animals, and the desert. As a boy, Muhammad worked as a shepherd. He took care of sheep and goats in the hot sun. This job taught him patience, silence, and care. He would walk alone in the hills, listening to the wind, watching the sky, and thinking deeply. He saw how the stars moved, how people treated each other, and how life could be both beautiful and hard. People in Makkah lived in tribes. Some were rich, but many were poor. There were no schools like today. Stories were passed by mouth. People loved poetry and strong words. Muhammad listened carefully. He spoke little, but when he did, his words were clear and full of meaning. Even as a child, people saw something special in him. He was honest, gentle, and never lied. Children liked to play with him. Adults respected him. They felt he had a clean heart. Muhammad did not grow up in a palace. He walked in the sand, worked with animals, and lived with simple people. But this life prepared him for something great. The desert shaped him. The silence gave him strength. The hardship made him kind. He was learning, growing, and watching. Step by step, his journey was beginning. As Muhammad grew older, he began to work. In his teens, he traveled with his uncle Abu Talib on trading journeys. These trips were long and difficult. They crossed deserts, mountains, and hot valleys. But Muhammad watched and learned. He saw how people bought and sold goods. He saw honesty and he saw cheating. He chose honesty. By the time he was a young man, Muhammad became known as a very trustworthy person. People in Makkah started calling him Al-Amin, which means the trustworthy. If someone lost money or gold, they gave it to Muhammad to keep it safe. If someone needed help in a business deal, they asked Muhammad for advice. He never lied, never cheated, and always spoke kindly. Muhammad worked as a merchant. He bought and sold goods like cloth, spices, and perfumes. He traveled to Syria and other lands. His reputation grew. People respected him not just for his work, but for his character. He was fair in trade, polite in speech, and generous with the poor. One day, a rich and respected woman in Makkah heard about him. Her name was Khadijah. She was a successful businesswoman. Many men worked for her, but she wanted someone honest to manage her trade. She chose Muhammad. Muhammad worked for Khadijah and did very well. He earned more profit than others before him. But more than money, Khadijah noticed his manners. He was kind to workers, respectful to all, and never showed pride. She admired him deeply. Khadijah was older than Muhammad, but she saw greatness in him. After some time, she sent a message to Muhammad. She wanted to marry him. Muhammad respected Khadijah very much. He agreed. They got married. He was 25 years old, and she was 40. Their marriage was full of peace and love. Khadijah was not just his wife. She was his friend, partner, and supporter. They had several children, and together they built a strong family. Muhammad did not marry anyone else while Khadijah was alive. Life was good. Muhammad was working, raising a family, and helping others. But something inside him was still searching. He looked at the world and saw injustice. The rich ignored the poor. People worshipped idols made of stone. Women and orphans had no rights. His heart could not accept these things. He began to spend more time alone. He would climb a mountain near Makkah and sit in a cave called Hira. There, he would think, reflect, and pray in silence. He was asking for truth, for light, for a path. And soon, the answer would come. Muhammad was now 40 years old. He still worked as a merchant, but his heart was full of questions. Why do people worship stones? Why do the rich hurt the poor? Why is there so much hate and darkness in the world? To find peace, he went to a cave on a mountain near Makkah. The cave was called Hira. It was quiet, far from the noise of the city. Muhammad sat there alone. He thought deeply. He prayed. He asked God for truth. One night, something powerful happened. It was the month of Ramadan. The sky was dark. The stars were shining. Muhammad was alone in the cave when suddenly, a light appeared. An angel stood before him. It was the angel Gabriel. The angel said one word, "Read." Muhammad was afraid. He said, "I cannot read." The angel hugged him and said again, "Read." Muhammad repeated, "I cannot read." A third time, the angel hugged him and said, "Read in the name of your Lord, who created man from a clot. Read. And your Lord is the most generous." Muhammad's heart was shaking. He did not understand what was happening. He ran down the mountain, afraid and confused. His body trembled. His face was pale. He rushed home to Khadijah. He said, "Cover me, cover me." She wrapped him in a blanket. He told her everything. He thought something bad had happened to him. But Khadijah listened calmly. She said, "No, you are a good man. You help the poor. You care for the weak. God will never leave you." She believed him. She believed the message was from God. Khadijah took Muhammad to her cousin, Waraka, who was a wise old man and knew the holy books. Waraka listened to the story and said, "This is the same angel who came to Moses. You are a prophet, chosen by God." This was the beginning. Muhammad was now a messenger of God. His job was to share the truth. There is only one God. People must stop worshiping idols. They must be kind, honest, and fair. At first, Muhammad was scared. But soon he felt calm. He knew this message was real. He began to speak to people in secret. He told his close friends and family. Some believed him right away. Others did not. These early believers were the first Muslims. They were few in number, but strong in faith. They included his wife Khadijah, his cousin Ali, his friend Abu Bakr, and his servant Zayd. Muhammad continued to go to the cave, receiving more messages from the angel Gabriel. These messages would later become part of a holy book, the Quran. The message was clear. Worship one God. Be good to others. Speak the truth. Help the poor. Forgive those who hurt you. A new chapter in Muhammad's life had begun. He was no longer just a merchant. He was a prophet, and his mission had just started. The message of Prophet Muhammad was simple. There is only one God. He has no partner. He is not made of stone or wood. He created the sky, the earth, the stars, the animals, and all people. But the message was also powerful. It asked people to change. It told them to stop worshiping idols, to be honest in business, to care for orphans, to be fair to women, to feed the hungry, to free slaves, and to pray to God alone. Some people listened. The poor, the weak, and the slaves were happy. They felt hope. For the first time, they heard that they were equal. That God loved them. That they had value. But the leaders of Makkah were angry. They were rich and strong. They made money from the idols and the big temple called the Kaaba. People from all over Arabia came to Makkah to pray to their gods. The leaders did not want to lose this power. They laughed at Muhammad. They said he was crazy. They called him a liar. But they knew he was not lying. They had called him Al-Amin, the honest one, for years. Deep in their hearts, they were afraid of the truth. Still, Muhammad continued his mission. He walked in the streets, spoke to people, and recited verses from the Quran. The words were beautiful, full of light and meaning. Many people were touched. Some became Muslim quietly. The leaders began to fight back. They punished the Muslims. They hit them, jailed them, and tried to stop the message. A slave named Bilal was tortured under the hot sun. But he kept saying, "One God, one God." His faith was strong. Prophet Muhammad told his followers to be patient. He said, "God is with us." He did not fight back with violence. His message was peace, not war. As time passed, more people accepted Islam. Not for money, not for power, but because their hearts believed it was true. A new community was growing. A community of faith, kindness, and equality. But the trouble in Makkah was growing too. The leaders became more cruel. They warned others not to listen to Muhammad. They told him, "Stop preaching, and we will make you king." But he said, "Even if you put the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left, I will not stop." This was not a game or a dream. It was a mission. A mission to bring people back to the truth. One God. One message. One human family. As more people became Muslim, the leaders of Makkah became more angry. They wanted to stop Prophet Muhammad. They did not want him to speak in public. They did not want others to hear the Quran. They feared the truth. They began to hurt the Muslims more. Some were beaten. Some were left with no food or water. Some were even killed. But the Muslims did not stop believing. Their hearts were full of faith. The leaders made a new plan. They wanted to make Muhammad feel alone. They told all of Makkah, "Do not sell food to his family, do not marry them, do not speak to them." This was called a boycott. It lasted for 3 years. Muhammad and his family had to live outside the city. They had little to eat. The children cried from hunger. Some people ate leaves from trees. But they stayed strong. They prayed, helped each other, and waited for the hard days to end. After 3 long years, the boycott ended. But then came a time of deep pain. In the same year, 2 people Muhammad loved died. His wife Khadijah passed away. She had been his helper, his comfort, his best friend. Soon after, his uncle Abu Talib also died. He had protected Muhammad from the leaders of Makkah. This year was called the Year of Sadness. Now Muhammad had no protection. The people of Makkah became even more cruel. So he left the city and went to a place called Taif. He wanted to share the message with new people. He hoped they would listen. But in Taif, they did not welcome him. They laughed at him. They told children to throw stones at him. His feet bled. His body hurt. But his heart was still soft. He did not curse them. Instead, he prayed, "O God, guide them. They do not know what they do." After this, something special happened. One night, Muhammad was taken on a journey. It was a journey through the sky. First, he traveled from Makkah to Jerusalem. Then he went up to the heavens. He saw beautiful things. He met other prophets like Moses and Jesus. He spoke with angels. And he received a special gift, the prayer called Salah. This journey gave him new strength. He returned to Makkah with hope in his heart. The years of struggle were hard. But they made Muhammad stronger. He learned patience. He learned mercy. He learned how to lead not with fear, but with love. The message was growing, and soon, everything would begin to change. The people of Makkah continued to reject Prophet Muhammad. They planned to kill him. They wanted to stop the message forever. But God had a different plan. Far away, in a city called Yathrib, something new was happening. People there had heard about Muhammad. They listened to the words of the Quran. They liked his message of peace and justice. Every year, more people from Yathrib came to visit him during the pilgrimage in Makkah. One day, a group from Yathrib said to Muhammad, "We believe in you. Come live in our city. We will protect you. We will follow you." These people were ready to become Muslims. This was a big moment. Muhammad told his followers to quietly leave Makkah and go to Yathrib. One by one, they left everything behind, their homes, their money, their land, just to follow the truth. But the leaders of Makkah watched closely. They did not want Muhammad to escape. They made a secret plan to kill him at night. They sent men from every tribe to attack together. That night, God told Muhammad to leave. He asked his cousin Ali to sleep in his bed to confuse the attackers. Then, Muhammad left with his best friend Abu Bakr. They hid in a cave outside the city for 3 days. The enemies searched everywhere. They even came near the cave. But they did not find him. God protected him. After the danger passed, Muhammad and Abu Bakr began the long journey to Yathrib. The road was hot and full of risk. But the Prophet stayed calm. Abu Bakr worried, but Muhammad said, "Do not be afraid. God is with us." When they finally arrived in Yathrib, the people welcomed them with joy. They stood in the streets, singing, smiling, and waving. They said, "The Prophet has come. The Prophet is here." They loved him even before meeting him. The city of Yathrib became known as Medina, short for the city of the Prophet. Now, for the first time, Muhammad was not just a messenger. He was also a leader. In Medina, he helped people live together in peace. He made an agreement with the Jewish tribes. He created laws that were fair for all. He taught the people how to pray, how to give charity, and how to treat others with kindness. He built a simple mosque where people could pray, learn, and feel safe. Muslims from Makkah, who had left everything, were now safe. They were called Muhajirin, the ones who migrated. The Muslims of Medina were called Ansar, the helpers. Together, they became one family. The Hijrah, the journey from Makkah to Medina, was not just a move. It was the beginning of a new society based on faith, equality, and mercy. And from here, the message of Islam began to shine across Arabia. Life in Medina was peaceful, but not easy. The leaders of Makkah were still angry. They wanted to destroy the Muslim community. They sent armies to fight. There were many battles. The Muslims defended themselves. They wanted peace, but they had to protect their new home. The first big battle was called Badr. The Muslims were few. The enemy was strong. But the Muslims had faith. They prayed. They trusted God. And they won. This victory gave them hope. Later came the Battle of Uhud. This time, the Muslims lost. Many people were hurt. Even the Prophet was wounded. But he forgave his people. He taught them to learn from their mistakes. Years passed. The Muslims grew stronger. More people came to Islam. Many tribes joined the message. The Prophet continued to teach peace, kindness, and respect. One day, Muhammad had a dream. He saw himself entering Makkah and visiting the Kaaba. He told his followers, "We will go to Makkah to make a peaceful visit." So they got ready. They did not bring weapons for war, only for safety. They wore white clothes, like pilgrims. But when they reached near Makkah, the leaders blocked the way. Still, the Prophet did not want to fight. He made a peace agreement. It was called the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. Some Muslims were sad. They wanted to enter Makkah. But Muhammad said, "Peace is better. God will open the way soon." And he was right. 2 years later, the leaders of Makkah broke the treaty. They attacked a tribe that was under the protection of the Muslims. Now, Muhammad had a reason to return, but not for revenge. He gathered a large army, over 10,000 people. They marched to Makkah. But there was no war. The people of Makkah saw the army and surrendered. They were afraid. But the prophet said, "Today, there is no revenge. You are free." He forgave his enemies, the same people who had hurt him, laughed at him, and tried to kill him. He walked into Makkah with his head low, not proud, but thankful. He entered the Kaaba and cleaned it. He removed the idols. He said, "Truth has come. Falsehood has gone." Then he prayed. The people of Makkah saw his mercy. Many of them accepted Islam. Hearts changed not because of force, but because of love, forgiveness, and truth. The return to Makkah was not just a victory. It was a moment of deep meaning. It showed the world the true power of character, that kindness can defeat hate, and forgiveness can heal the deepest wounds. It had been more than 20 years since the first message in the cave. Prophet Muhammad had faced hunger, pain, battles, and betrayal. But now, Islam had spread across Arabia. People were coming from every direction to learn from him. The Kaaba was free of idols. People worshipped one God. The prophet was more than 60 years old. His hair had some white. His body was not as strong as before. But his heart was full of peace. He knew his mission was almost complete. In the year 632, he told his followers, "Come with me on the pilgrimage to Makkah." It was the first time thousands of Muslims would go with him. Men and women, young and old, joined this sacred journey. It became known as the farewell pilgrimage. They reached the Holy Land. They wore white clothes. They circled the Kaaba. They stood on the mountain of Arafat, the same place where Prophet Abraham once stood. There, under the hot sun, Muhammad gave his final message. This is known as the Last Sermon. He stood in front of the people, more than 100,000, and spoke with a clear, strong voice. He said, "O people, listen carefully. I do not know if I will be here with you again after this year. Your lives and your property are sacred. Do not hurt each other. Treat women kindly. They are your partners and helpers. There is no difference between Arab and non-Arab, black and white. You are all equal. The best of you is the one who has the best heart and the most goodness. Do not cheat. Do not lie. Do not be unfair. Every person is responsible for their actions. Worship one God. Pray. Give charity. Fast in Ramadan. Treat others with respect. I leave behind something clear, the Quran and my example. Follow them, and you will not go wrong." Then he asked the people, "Have I delivered the message?" They all said, "Yes, you have." He raised his finger to the sky and said, "O God, be my witness." Tears fell from many eyes. The people knew this was goodbye. After the pilgrimage, the prophet returned to Medina. He felt tired. His body became weak. He knew his time was near. In his final days, he still led the prayers when he could. He visited the mosque. He gave advice. He reminded the people, "Be kind. Pray. take care of the poor. Then, one day, he became very sick. He had a fever. He could not stand. He rested in the room of his wife Aisha. His head was on her lap. When the time for prayer came, he told the people to let Abu Bakr lead. This was a sign. His followers understood that the end was near. On the 12th day of the month of Rabi al-Awwal, in the year 632, Prophet Muhammad passed away. He was 63 years old. The news spread fast. The city fell silent. Some people cried loudly. Some could not believe it. Even Umar, one of his closest friends, said, "He is not dead." But Abu Bakr stood and spoke with a calm voice. He said, "Whoever worships Muhammad, know that he has died. But whoever worships God, know that God is always alive." The people listened. Their hearts became calm again. The Prophet was buried in the same place he died, in the room of Aisha, next to the mosque. After his death, the message continued to grow. His companions spread Islam to new lands. They shared the Quran. They lived by his teachings. They remembered his smile, his kindness, and his words. Today, more than 1.9 billion people in the world follow Islam. They say his name in every prayer. They try to live with honesty, patience, and mercy, just like him. But Prophet Muhammad's legacy is not only for Muslims. His message of peace, equality, and respect touches all hearts. He taught the world that true power is not in money or armies, but in truth and good character. He was a man who had nothing, no wealth, no power, no formal education. Yet he changed the world with his faith, his courage, and his words. He taught that light can shine even in the darkest times. That a single person, with a pure heart and a strong message, can transform history. And that message lives on. The story of Prophet Muhammad is not just history. It is a lesson for life. He was born an orphan, lived with little, and could not read or write. But with patience, kindness, and truth, he changed the world. He taught us that we should care for others. Speak gently. Stand for justice. Forgive, even when it is hard. Trust in God, even in dark times. He did not build palaces. He built hearts. He did not rule with fear. He led with love. His greatest strength was his character. From Makkah to Medina, from the cave to the Kaaba, his journey was full of struggle and light. He cried, smiled, forgave, and prayed. He showed us how to be better human beings. You may be feeling small. Maybe life is hard right now. But remember, the Prophet was once just a boy in the desert. He had no power, no money, and no army. Only a dream. Only faith. And that was enough to change the world. So never give up on your dreams. Be honest. Be kind. Be brave. You don't need to be perfect to make a difference. You only need to believe and take the first step. If this story touched your heart, please like this video. Share in the comments, What part of the Prophet's life inspired you the most? And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories that help you grow and learn English. Do you want to improve your English 20x faster? Whether it's grammar, conversation, or fluency, we have the perfect material for you. Click the link in the description or the first pinned comment and take your English to the next level. Thank you for watching. Stay kind. Stay patient. And keep learning. Peace be upon you.